Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I am Lydia Bazell, an intern at Seeds of Healing. Seeds of Healing is an HIV awareness and advocacy organization whose mission is to deconstruct myths that perpetuate HIV stigma. Our work seeks to eliminate disparities for Black women. Today's webinar is Making the Best of Technology When Experiencing Virtual Fatigue with Dr. Grady. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared on our SoTime platform and posted to our YouTube channel. If you do not wish to be recorded, you may excuse yourself. The panelists will be the only ones on video. Attendees are able to drop questions in the chat box and will be shared at the end of the webinar. Feel welcome to ask questions and write comments in the chat box throughout the program. We will get to them shortly. Now I will tell you about the SoTime. SoTime is a virtual platform for Black women living positively. Here's more about the platform.
Hey ladies, welcome to SoTime. My name is Benita Spradley, one of the moderators and content contributors here, and we're excited to have you aboard.
Hello, Queens, and welcome to SoTime. I'm Tamisha Isaac, also one of your moderators and content contributors. I'm honored to have you join us.
SoTime is a platform for Black women to connect across the U.S. to provide tools for self-care and encourage consistent adherence.
SoTime is a platform for us, created by us, to collaborate and center issues that affects Black women, the struggle causes by a diagnosis or chronic illness.
We have groups with specific topics to cater to the mission of SoTime, but uplift, empower, and strengthen you as we power through on this journey.
Surrounding yourself with women that look like you in a safe space where you are free to be yourself while learning from each other and sharing resources that can enhance your way of life on the course of this journey.
We are here for each one of you. We welcome you, and we look forward to networking, supporting one another, and learning new things as we come together on this SoTime website.
Welcome.
Dr. Siobahn Day Grady is an assistant professor of informational systems at North Carolina Central University. She is a AAS If-Then Ambassador and a North Carolina Central University Office of E-Learning Faculty Fellow. She seeks to broaden participation in computing, especially for women and girls of color in STEM. Her research includes human-computer interaction and machine learning. And now we'll turn over to Dr. Grady.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and welcome everyone. We're so excited to have you today, and the topic is something that has affected us all, especially since 2020. That is the magical year. At least that's the way we're going to think about it today. So I think you all can see my screen. Is that right? Excellent. And you've already heard a little bit about me, but I want to give you some rules of engagement for today for us to have a great time together. I'm going to share a lot with you, but I hope that you'll share a lot with me too. So I hope you'll be interactive with me. Those who are on the Zoom platform with us, feel free to use the reactions. Also type in the chat. I'll be sure to attend to everything that I see. This is an overview of what we're going to be discussing. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about who I am. We're going to have an interactive session. That's when I'm going to share the tips with you next, tips that I've learned. And then I want to hear from you. Let's have a discussion about what you've learned as well. And then I'll give time for Q&A. So as you already heard, I am an assistant professor at North Carolina Central University. In addition, I'm also a 3-time HBCU graduate, and I happen to graduate from North Carolina A&T State University as the first woman to get a PhD in computer science. You've heard about my research is primarily in artificial intelligence and machine learning. I apply machine learning to many different domains, such as autonomous vehicles and understanding fault detection. Also, I apply it to Twitter data to understand fake news and who wrote what. And as of late, I'm now applying machine learning to healthcare data. I've also been in higher ed most of my career. Prior to being a faculty member, I used to be an IT professional. So I'm very into technology. And outside of all of those things, I love to cook, travel, read, and so forth. Also, some points of pride that I want to mention to you. The SoTime, I've been a principal investigator working with the lovely ladies at SoTime and also from Elon University to create this platform that you just heard about. Very proud of that. And again, these are the other accomplishments, things that I'm proud of. But outside of all of that, you can see I'm just a daughter, a friend, an advocate. I'm just an everyday person, just like everyone else. And so I really want us to have some fun today and talk about how we can get outside of this virtual fatigue and kind of make the technology work for us. Before I go to the next slide, I just want to say my perspective on things is I love technology. I think technology is excellent, but sometimes, even though we create great technology, we don't always know how to effectively use it. And so with that being said, I want to start off by asking you all a question. Do you like being virtual? And you should be able to see on the screen how you can respond to this. You can respond using the poll, ev.com and Siobahn Grady 980. So if you would all go ahead and participate with me at this time and let me know how you really feel about being virtual. Excellent, excellent. So as you can see here, it looks like everybody would rather be in person. So that means we're not feeling virtual too much. Also, some people love it. That's second place. Third place is people who are kind of half and half. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And then we have a few people who just hated it. So that's great. And that gives me a gauge on where we are as an audience as well. Next, I would like to hear from you about what is one word that describes your feelings on being virtual. And so you'll use that same link that I put in the chat before, and that's pollev.com/Siobahn Grady 980. Let me know what that one word is that describes your feelings on being virtual. Okay. The responses are coming. I see plugged in constantly. Or constantly. Plugged, tired. Connected. Convenient. Okay. Trapped. Oh my. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that transparency. And I'll just give just one more moment because I'm not sure how many people are here. So I just want to give one more moment. Okay, but I think this might be all that we're getting right now. This is a nice little word cloud that just kind of shows us how people are feeling. So I think there's a common thread. The things that are in larger print are showing maybe if they were repeated multiple times, but connected kind of seems to be connected, convenient, trapped, tired. They all kind of seem to be around the same space for people. So that's interesting. The only one that looks positive here is connected. But before we go and dive into some tips, I want to start off on a positive note. And I really want to know next. Okay. Want to know next up is what are the positives? It sounds like there are a lot of negatives, but virtual can't be all bad. What's been good about it for you? Let's focus on the positive now. Let me know, what are the positives? Try to think about that. All right, so we have some connections, flexibility, and I'll give a few more moments for others to chime in. And I'm hoping if you haven't chimed in, it's not because you don't see any positives. There's always something positive. Yes, flexibility and staying safe from COVID. Yes, those are all positives. And I think I'm going to keep going because I think we have about 4 to 5 people who are participating. So in the essence of time, because our time is limited for today's session, I won't spend a whole lot of time. And I like here more reach. And I too feel all of these positives that you all feel. as well. But I wanted to start on a positive note because it was sounding a little negative there. And I know there's some good that's in virtual too. And so I want to just pause here for just one moment, because it sounds like most of us here today kind of feel like this. You got the camera on, you're participating, but you just feel tired. You feel zonked, and you probably don't know what to do. And so that brings me into some tips that I hope that you will use if you're not already using them to help you not look like this nice lady here. She just looks like she doesn't want to be there. And the thing about virtual, based on the responses that you all gave me, you want to be back in person, but you recognize, because we're still in this pandemic, that sometimes that may not be a possibility. So let's talk about now some of those pros. And I'm going to share with you these tips, but I want to talk about them because these are things that I have learned that I hope you will take with you as well to make your time using this technology and being virtual positive. So one thing that I learned initially in 2020 is that sometimes you don't need to have a meeting. But because everything changed and we weren't able to go outside, a lot of people just wanted to meet, but they wanted to meet more. So one thing that has helped me be successful in managing my time and understanding if we need to have a meeting is to get a meeting agenda. And if you're the host of a meeting, you can create that agenda. That helps you determine how the conversation should go, what should be happening. And sometimes in doing that, you'll learn that you may not even need to meet via Zoom or virtually. You can actually probably opt for one of the other traditional methods, which is just sending an email. A lot of things can happen in email to get sorted out, or even old school, just pick up the phone. People would love to hear from you, hear your voice. You don't always need to feel plugged in that you have to have a meeting. Another thing that's worked really great is those virtual backgrounds. The cool thing about Zoom or WebEx or Teams and all these other environments, if your home life is kind of busy and not set up the way that you want it to be set up, you can just add a nice virtual background there, which is great. I've seen people put virtual backgrounds up of places they'd rather be. Whatever it takes, you can do that too. So change your virtual background if you don't have the best space that you want to share. Also, get good lighting. One thing that's become very popular during these times are the ring light. I'm using one today. And the reason why I bring this up is because sometimes when you look good, you feel good. And that can change your whole attitude towards being virtual. A lot of times we might not like our space. That's why I mentioned the virtual background as an option, or we might not have the best lighting where people can really see us. And if this is our only method to work with one another, let's just present our best selves if we're able to do that. Another key thing is to introduce breaks. The technology is great. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a technologist, but we have to learn how to make this technology work for us. And just because we can meet virtually doesn't mean that every hour of the day we need to be having a meeting. Introduce some breaks in your schedule the same way you would if you were not meeting virtually. Go ahead and put those breaks in there, like how you would give yourself travel time to get somewhere. Put some time in there to break. You deserve that. One thing that's been a common hardship on a lot of people that I've spoken to during this pandemic is just the constant need to get a lot of things done. We can only do one thing at a time. And the best thing we can do is to introduce some breaks and give ourselves times to recharge and get back to the mission at hand. The next one is something that I hope you've been doing if you haven't already, and that's have shorter meetings. So for instance, today I chose to do a lunch and learn with you all because sometimes an hour or 2 hours of our time virtually, it can be a lot. But if I can spend a good 30 minutes with you all and have this time, it might be more impactful than spending a longer period of time. Sometimes we don't need those long sessions. Shorter sessions can still be effective and we can still get a lot done. Also, being interactive in the chat. Many times, if you're not the one that's presenting or the presenter, you probably don't want to turn your cameras on. And I understand that. But sometimes you need to be interactive so that whoever's the host or the speaker can know that you're there. So try to be interactive in the chat if you're not able to share your camera. But with that being said, it's okay to communicate to people that you're not able to turn your camera on. I have been in many meetings and just let people know at this time, I'm unable to share my camera, but I'm here. I'll be present in the chat and also using those reactions. And then this is not the last tip because I have many, many tips for you, but also take screen breaks. There's a rule, the 2020 rule, where if you're looking at a screen for 20 minutes, give yourself time to look at something else, maybe 20 feet away, to give your eyes a rest break. There's a lot of eye strain that's happening from looking at these screens and monitors all day long. Give yourself a break, and that's okay. This next one I think is so important. Take a break from social media. One way to overcome this virtual fatigue is to stop some of this. You don't need to be plugged in at all times. Take a break. Also, turn off your phone. We're on the computer more now than ever. And then now, sometimes as a break away from being virtual, we think that we want to use our phones as downtime. Maybe turn the phone off and just take a break from all these screens to give yourself rest. And that is okay. Also, avoid multitasking. Sometimes because we're virtual, we think we can do everything. We think we can be in a meeting and also folding clothes and also doing whatever. And we can do all those things. But if you're not concentrating on the thing at hand, you might be missing out on something else. So make sure to avoid multitasking so that you can focus and really make sure you're getting what you need. These last couple of ones are very simple ones, but highly effective. Get some candles, create that environment that you want to have. One good thing about being virtual is maybe you're at home or you're somewhere else. If you're at home, you can create that environment, get some candles, or if you have a diffuser and put some essential oil in there, and you can create that nice vibe that you want to have in your home that feels good. And that might actually change your whole attitude when you're virtual and when you're meeting with people. Also, a nice cup of tea. There's so many wonderful teas out there that do different things. You can do that to relax you as well. And then this next one is one of my favorite ones. Go outside. Sometimes being connected virtually all the times, we forget about the little things. And one thing that I'm enjoying right now is the beautiful fall leaves. I like to get up when I'm in a meeting because I'm working from home. I'm remote now. I get up and I go outside and I just walk around the neighborhood just to see the beautiful leaves. And also I'm enjoying that crisp fall air. And it feels good when I do that. So get you some fresh air. And then one other thing that you can do is to turn off the self view. A lot of times when we're meeting virtually, with Zoom especially, we have ourselves right there in the screen, and it's a natural habit to look at yourself. But if you cut that off, turn off self-view is what it's called, then that means you can focus on the other people that are there and really have that engagement just like you would in person. So these are some tips that I have found to be highly effective for me that I hope will be effective for you. And maybe you're already doing these things. But if you aren't, I hope that these are takeaways from you. Now, with that being said, I'd like to hear from you all. What tips do you have to share? You can feel free to put that in the chat or come off mute and speak to me and let me know. And I see there's some things in the chat. Let me just look and see if I missed anything. And it looks like you all are in agreement with a lot of things that I've said, which is excellent. But is there anything else anyone would like to share to let me know what things have been working for you?
Dr. Grady, one of the things that I learned early on, just like you just mentioned, was to turn off the self-view. It can actually be a distraction to look at yourself all the time. I want to fix my curls. I'm like, oh my God, my lighting is crazy. But when I turn off the self-view, then it really becomes a discussion and I can sort of relax. So thank you for mentioning that. That was a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. And we all love ourselves and we all want to look beautiful, and we are beautiful, but it is a distraction. So if you can turn that self view off, I think that's a great thing as well. And if there's more, I would love to hear from you. But one thing that I didn't have written down, but and this is okay too, but get familiar with the technology. The technology is not here to hurt you. And the reason why I say that, I know there's still a lot of people who are uncomfortable with meeting virtually and all of these things, and that's fine. When we're able to go back to normal, or what the new normal may look like, I believe the virtual will still be here. So the best thing that we can do is get familiar with these different platforms. Like I mentioned, Zoom, WebEx, Microsoft Teams. Get familiar with these technologies and make them work for you. They have so many cool features that can really help to make life easier, and you don't need to feel like you need to be plugged in all the time. The amazing part about being virtual is that we now understand that people have real lives happening. There are plenty of meetings or anything that I've attended virtually where people have children who may be running in the background. They may have family members staying with them. The one beautiful thing that I've loved about being virtual is that we've been able to truly see who one another really is. And that means that we're all just human beings and doing the best that we can. So make sure to have some grace with people if they do have a lot of those elements happening. Just be mindful that they're, making room for you to be present, and so many other things. So make sure you're understanding how to use the technology and how to make it work for you. And there are lots of cool instructional videos out there on all of these platforms to show you how to utilize those features as well. I'm also seeing in the chat, yoga and meditation, definitely. I'm a true believer in those things, kind of setting your intention for the day to get yourself in the right mindset. And also, I didn't write music. I have a playlist that I listen to that is more of like meditational music, just calming music, or sometimes I like soft jazz. And that goes back to what I was saying before about creating the right environment. That's important. And yes, in the chat, they're mentioning gratitude. Yes, gratitude is important. And as I mentioned to you all earlier, when I go outside and look at the leaves and I'm enjoying that fall crisp air, that is my gratitude, that I'm just enjoying the creation from the maker. And so that is that's my way of extending gratitude, and also just to step outside and enjoy this beautiful thing that we call life. And so I think the overall tips that I'm sharing here is to make sure that you find time for you. We're virtual, but this right now for some people is the only way they can connect. So I think if you do those tips, it might not make virtual feel like what we saw earlier, trapped. Trapped really stuck out to me. Someone wrote they felt trapped. But I think if you do some of these things, it might help you feel less trapped until, like I said, we can go and have our new normal.
Yeah.
Yes. Was there another comment? I'm sorry. Okay.
I think I was going to mention that I find that when I practice on Zoom without anyone present, I learn a lot of features, ways to enhance the lighting. You can even make yourself wear lipstick, darken your eyebrows, and learning to toggle around and play with those things has also helped with a level of comfort while being virtual. I'm curious to see how people are going to transition out of virtual and back face to face once we get past this pandemic, because we are going to get past this pandemic. I think that's probably going to be a huge challenge because we learned so much during this practice of innovation.
Yes, I think it's going to be a huge challenge. And if I'm transparent with you all, the last time I went to campus, I was flustered. It's been a long time since I've had to find parking when there's no parking and try to hurry up and get to a meeting. And I found new levels of stress that had normally had because I had been at home the times I do have to go to campus. And so I think it's going to be a lot of those adjustments, just realizing, and for some of us, realizing that you need to put the bottom half of your attire on. One thing about virtual that's been excellent is that we just, some of us just worry about the top half, that this looks in order, but you got to put yourself back together again and be prepared, and also feel the vibrations. One amazing thing about being in person is just, to me, just feeling the energy or the vibe in the room, especially for me as an educator. I love teaching, just seeing my students get excited and feeling that joy. And that's one thing that, unfortunately, virtual can't always provide to us. We can't, get to see people light up or feel their excitement for something. We can only see it. Whatever they show us, by the way, because everybody doesn't always show their camera. So it should be interesting. And I'm seeing in the chat, travel time management. Yes, that's going to be a huge adjustment for back in person activities. But the amazing thing about being in person that I got a chance to realize is we had a lot of breaks when we were in person that I don't think we accounted for when we went virtual. At least I didn't. It went from, okay, I got to hurry up. And I was finding in 2020 that my whole day was blocked up with meetings. And if you are someone that works in technology, the meetings are good, but you have to schedule time to get the work done. And so I was finding myself working 12-hour days constantly. And then I had to learn how to implement breaks or have specific days that I do meetings. And there are some tools also that I want to touch on before our time runs out. Slack is a great collaborative tool that you can use to communicate when you don't want to have a meeting. And also I use something called Calendly to help schedule time for meetings. So our time is running out, but I want to know, what's been your biggest takeaway? What did you learn that you didn't already know, or what was reinforced to you?
How should we use the poll?
Yes, poll everywhere. Yes, I like that. Take time for yourself. That's right. Self-care, boundaries. Excellent. Yes, self-care and boundaries. These things are essential. And even, yes, the ring light is key. The lighting works really, really well. I like that, creating a relaxed, focused environment. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that compliment. But yes, the main point that you need to realize is you are important. And when you are your best self, everyone will see that and everything else will follow. And even though we can't be in person right now, we can still create an amazing atmosphere for ourselves to be present for our meetings, for our colleagues, for our students, for even our families, because some of you may be meeting with your families virtually too. And I really hope that this has helped you today. And I'm just going to share with you my contact information. If you'd like to stay in touch with me, I welcome you to, shoot me an email or go to my website or follow me on social media to see more tips and presentations that I'm doing. I have absolutely enjoyed every moment of today with you. I hope that this lunch and learn type session has been beneficial to you and that you will put yourself first and not feel trapped or confined or any of that during this virtual space and time that we're living in. And with that, I'll leave it for questions, should there be any. All right, it looks like you all are feeling good. So
I had there were a couple of comments. We do have people following us on Facebook. And someone said to use the raise your hand feature to talk. That's been really helpful. What a thumbs up and thumbs down. Trying to use those features when you're communicating also would be helpful. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yes. Again, Zoom has so many features. That's why I was saying try to spend some time and get to know them. To raise your hand. I love the reactions as a presenter when people are giving me the reactions when it's available. I love that as well. And also with the reactions, they also have go faster, go slower. They have so many different options, and it's really helpful because sometimes you might not always be able to type in the chat and let someone know. And using those options is great. as well. So I agree. And I want to point out what LaShonda said too. Spend some time in your settings. There's an auto adjust feature for your looks. There's multiple ways that you can present your best self. Of course, don't overdo it. Make sure so when someone sees you in person, they know it's you. But enjoy all these amenities and features. Technology is great, but it's up to us to determine how we want to best use them. And sometimes we can abuse the tools. The tools are not really abusing us. Sometimes we just don't know how to disconnect from them. And that's up to us to do. And I think I've given you all the tips to do that today. Okay, if there's no other questions, I want to thank you all and wish every single one of you an absolutely amazing virtual day.